How's this?
And we are live and direct. Uh-oh.
Welcome. I think I'm. Listen, there's a little bit of issues going on. It's been raining here in Virginia, but if you are joining us live, thank you so much. Welcome to the Ronnie and Yasheka Stadium discussion. It's Thursday. We're doing our thing, and we are coming to you live. And so, if you are catching us, make sure that you allow StreamYard access to you so that we can see who you are. So when you comment, we'll know who's commenting and where it's coming from. So before I do the introductions, let me go ahead and go to our commercial break. I'll see you guys in a second.
Calling your phone, why you not hitting me back? Please just pick up, don't wanna go tit for tat. Arguing on versus this then this that. Killing my vibe, now I'm writing this rap. This is not another love song, girl, you got me at me.
Okay,
All
what anyone
right,
says.
and we are back. And I'm just letting you guys know right now, if I go a little in and out, I'm seeing you guys from my cell phone, and then I'm seeing you on the computer. Y'all know when you in the neighborhoods, in certain neighborhoods, the internet don't work as good, and I got high power. But welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Yasheka Foster, affectionately known as the artist of dating, and I empower successful women to date through self-discovery, to find their life partners in the tool to balance it all. And my co-host for this evening, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ronnie Walker, master coach of exceptional dating, relationships, and sex. And we accomplish all this exceptionalism through the world and space of self-development. So, welcome everybody. And I'm sorry, I'm just in a very animated mood this evening. So, and I think we have a very animated subject as we're going forward. And hello, Yasheka.
All right. So, all right, Ronnie, listen, I think I may have to join on my computer as well. I mean, on my phone as well as my desktop. It seems like I'm having some internet issues, but if I do, y'all just know that I'll come back and Ronnie will pick it up wherever I have fell short. So let's get this thing started. You know what? Before I say this, let me tell y'all something. Adult ADHD self-diagnosed is real. I don't care what nobody say, because I have been trying to create this whole.
It seems.
Once I got started, let me tell you the craziness.
You were caught in the matrix for a second there. Go ahead. We got you.
Okay. All right. And then I was sitting here and I'm looking and I'm like, okay, we got 15 minutes because we had to push it back to 9:30. No sooner than 9:27 came around, all of a sudden I'm like, dang, how did time get away from me? So although we was early, I ended up was almost late because it's something about the brain. When you start to get older, you start thinking about so many things. And before I knew it, I was doing something else. But anyway, I'm rambling on. Ronnie, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Thank you so much, Jay. Jay, thank you so much for letting everybody know to share the live. So, Ronnie, if you can, let's get started. Let's definitely get started. So, because I have been in Facebook jail so many times, I did not want to say exactly what I meant when I titled this, "In the Pool of Dating, Is the Water Contaminated?" Right? Because y'all know what word I really want to use, but I keep going back to Facebook jail. So I was like, I'm going to tiptoe around it, but y'all know what I'm talking about. You know, I'm hearing, listen, and instead if you say things about, what is it, 5-7 minutes into your life, that nobody's monitoring you that far into it, so you won't get 5 minutes. I really wanted to say, is there really pee in the dating pool? Right? Because I'm hearing that there is pee in the dating pool. All right. Urine, whatever you want to call it. And I don't really know what that means, but I'm hearing it so much to I'm starting to believe that it's a real thing. So Let's talk about it, Ronnie. Is there urine in the dating pool?
I will say that in 30 years, the dating pool is always going to be the dating pool. And what that means is that, look, we're in the world of dating apps. And I will say this, that, and I keep saying this, just because that here's what's going on. The internet has made the world a smaller place. So what would appear to seem like is just a new thing has always been there. And based on when you in the dating space, or whether you're commenting on the dating space, or whether you're coaching people who are in the dating space. So to me, and like you, and it's so funny because when we talked about this, you literally were reading my mind, because I said, this is something that needs to be covered, because I'm seeing this on my timelines, no matter what platform I'm using. And the Indians, of course, women are the most vocal about it, that there's this in the dating pool. And trust me, the other words they use to describe it is even worse. So you still gave the Disney version of it. So is there? Of course there is. There is. So when we're talking about the days where people were going to the clubs, people going to the bars, you're going to find some knuckleheads, and then you're going to find some whatever. And it's no different with the dating apps. And it has evolved. But see, based on the generations that you talk to, some would say that it's more contaminated than others. So in answer to your question, yes, there is a little bit. But see, here's the other thing, and if I just may add this, Yasheka, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to about this subject, and upon further inspection, they're the ones contaminating the pool. But somehow, like anything else, it's everybody else but them. And so that's a realization that once I dig deeper and I ask the questions, they say, well, Ronnie, Mr. Ron, are you telling me that I'm part of the problem? I said, well, what do you think? And so they'll either get a laugh, or they'll get upset. But either way, yes, I will. But I don't think it's as bad as many would like to think. You say that it is. I really don't think it's as bad as that. But of course there is. I think it's as bad as that. You got the mixtape going on?
Listen, I'm trying. Keep going.
Okay. So again, gentlemen, ladies. And I don't want to say whether that it's mainly men or that it's mainly women. Because trust me, because I hear from so many women, they hear them tell it, they're all perfect, and it's the men that are the ones contaminating the pool. Meanwhile, if you talk to enough men, they'll tell you that it's the women that are contaminating the pool. And see, that also is part of the contamination. No one wants to take accountability. No one wants to own that there's some things that they may still need to work on. And some will not admit that they're not ready to be out there in this space anyhow. They're just going with the flow. They're seeing what's happening, or they just want to smash and dash. So again, when someone comes to me and talk about the pool is contaminated, then I'm one to ask, well, in what way are you talking about? And based on that answer, this is where I'll get the answers. But again, I'm going to go back to saying, don't give up hope. But please know that this is why Yasheka and I will always tell you first to work on who you are, know who you are, do the self-work, and that will help you navigate that pool. And truth be told, ladies, for those who are listening in, men, to those of you who are listening in, some of you are just in the wrong damn pool. You're in the kiddie pool, and I'm just doing an analogy. You're in the kiddie pool when you need to be in an adult pool. And so while you continue to swim in the kiddie pool, well, see, that's where the coaching comes in, because it's got nothing to do with the pool overall. Is that you're just in the wrong section of the pool for either control, for either what you feel is some form of leverage, or because you think it's easier, because you're trying to avoid the work. So no, you're in the wrong pool. And that tends to be the case in so many conversations that I've had, especially with women. But I don't want to give the women the impression that I'm beating up on them. because it's just not the case. Here Jay said it's contaminated from wanting false relations versus sexual intentions. They mix it up with the kiddie session, and that goes back to what I was saying.
And I'm gonna jump in for a minute,
Yes,
Ronnie.
absolutely. I'm glad you're there.
You
Okay.
can hear me. And I totally agree with what you said and what he said. Because here's the thing. This is what people I feel need to understand. And I've said this before. The people who we can date, like for example, I'm going to use myself as an example. If I want to go out on a date often, I can do that. Even if I want to keep a gentleman around for, or a gentleman is around for a few months on end, and we go out on a few dates, and we start, maybe going to 1 or 2 barbecues together, right? That's not necessarily the same guy that's interested in marriage with me. I might be the girl for him for the year, right? He may want to take me. He might only want to keep me around, or I might only want to keep his ass around for one 4th of July barbecue or for one New Year's celebration, right? Because sometimes people are on different paths of life. And so because of that, you might find that you have some interest and you don't mind hanging around that person, but then you start thinking about it and was like, well, I don't really want to spend forever with this person, but this person was cool while we were together. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I really believe when I hear people say, like what Jay said about the whole mixing the adult pool with the kiddie pool, because the kiddie pools, they still want to play around. They still want to, go from one to the other, jump from bed to bed, see what they can conquer. They don't want no commitment. They don't want any of that. But because they may be interested in the person that they come across, they won't tell the full truth. They'll be, well, I'm just going wherever everything take me. If I find, being really like non-committal to an answer, right? Just being really like, just, I guess the word is evasive. Like, I'm not going to say yes or no, just in case I change my mind. I'm not going to say yes or no, just in case it turns out to be something different, or they run away from me. You understand what I'm saying? And so that's how the pool get tainted. And that's how the kiddie pool get mixed up with the adult pool, because people are not in it and being serious about it. And like I said, those are 2 different conversations. The guy that I go out with and have a good time and go out on a couple of dates and maybe have dinner with or whatever, he may stick around for the summer. But come doggone cuddling season, that don't mean he gonna be around. You know what I'm saying? Because he may find he wants to be somewhere else, or I may find I want to be somewhere else. But the thing about it is that people are honest about that from the very beginning.
Yeah, and see, here's the thing. Look, I can't tell you how many women are complaining about the men when, again, upon further digging into the conversation, they're exactly who they're complaining about. Mm-hmm. And I have this conversation with women all the damn time about the vagueness, about the whatever. And this all goes into, and me and you, Yasheka, we talk about this often because we have different views in terms of dating. When you get this thing, date them all. And my challenge with that is very few people can do that effectively. Mm-hmm. Very few people can do that effectively, because if you listen to one of the biggest challenges in self-development with people is focus. Mm-hmm. So, because and discipline. So I put up a post, dating takes discipline. And I get on a men's case all the damn time because I'm talking to them saying, listen, fellas, if you're talking to me and if you're talking about intentional dating, that means you're in it for marriage. So if this is a season when every damn body's talking about this is for the summer, this is a summer chick, well, then you're not intentional. Unless you're just intentional about some ass. That's really what you're intentional about. But don't tell me you're intentional dating for marriage if you're wasting your time in the summer chasing barbecue chicks. Mm-hmm. You just, again, because far too many of you, and I don't care whether you're in your 50s, 40s, 30s, or whatever, if there's one thing I will pat myself on the back for and give myself credit for, is that I found that what I needed to do early on, that I'm speaking to men in their 50s and 60s and even hell, mid 40s, that they're now saying, look, because far too many of you have met incredible women, the same women. And here's the thing, multiple times. And then you're talking to me saying, well, Ron, there are none out there. Hell yeah, there are. Don't tell me you're in this field of expertise of networking or business or whatever, and you tell me you haven't met. Okay. And then you're complaining about the dating pool. No, brother, you were in the right pool. But no, you want to play in the summertime, and now it's cuffing season. I said, so let me make this clear, ladies and gentlemen. If you're intentionally dating, forget that cuffing season BS. Now, again, listen to me or don't listen to me. That's up to you. But if there is one thing, when I speak to men and women who are married 10, 20, 30 years, the one thing, now we can talk about where they didn't intend, they didn't think that they would be together because they're not like, well, what is, happenstance. I met the bank or whatever. But one thing they were clear on is that when they met him or her, it was on. Game on. And it burns my butt. I'm using softer words that when we talk about a job, you got to stay focused. You got to stay disciplined. When it talks about business, you got to be so. But then when it comes to a person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, oh, well, if it happens, it happens. Or I'm waiting for God to give me the signal when he's given you. When we look at the divorce rates of our people, is because there are so many times when you have met that person and you're still BSing yourself because they leave the toothpaste cap off the toothpaste. I mean, there's so many reasons we can justify not being with someone when out of the one thing you're complaining on, when there's 15 other things. So if you're intentional about dating, you're intentional for marriage or life, whatever that may be. But when you meet her, when you meet him, then damn it, go in.
Okay,
so all the way in.
So get my thoughts.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. And I do always have a go back and forth with this, and I can only speak from the area of marriage because that's all I know is marriage, right? Now, I say that to say this. People say that, well, when you meet that person, marry them. That's not how life works. It doesn't work that way. And here's why. Just because you met a person at 24 and you thought that she was the one because you got to be 44 and realized that the one you met at 24 was the perfect it was, and it wasn't going to get no better. That doesn't mean she wanted you. And that's what people need to understand. It has to be neutral. So I'm not saying that, not neutral, but it has to be like, you have to be in cohesive with one another, right?
Is that what you're saying?
Meet each other at the same time in life, because like I said before on the live, what I wanted at 20 may not be what I wanted at 40. That's just like when I was a kid, because I like to use scenarios. I like to use things, things that make a person's mind think. When I was a kid, my mother used to make my brother and I smothered cube steaks, okay? All I knew was that it was a steak. I didn't know no better until I had a freaking T-bone, okay? Once I had a T-bone, I thought that was the cream of the doggone crop until I had Angus and some shit, right? And it started getting higher and higher and higher. Now, is this to not say that I don't mind a T-bone from time to time? Of course I do. If this not to say that if my mama made some smothered cube steaks, I wouldn't have a plate. Of course I'd fix me a plate. But what I'm saying is that I had to go through the different cuts of meat for me to understand which one was better for me, because I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so people always say that about being intentional about dating a person and about doing this and doing that. It's not that cut and dry. We have to evolve as people. You can't sit here and tell me that the man you are today at 25 when you was going to get married is the same man that you are at almost 60. That's nobody that's like that. So what you wanted back then is not the same as what you want now. And it's not that cut and dry. If it was, we wouldn't be at a 50% marriage rate. 50% of marriages make it and 50% of marriages don't, because we're all out here trying to figure it out. And I wish it was that cut and dry. And so that's where you and I disagree on.
I would never. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Are you finished? I didn't want to cut you. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to acknowledge that you were saying something, and Jay praised you for the things that you were saying before I just spoke, and then also he came back and said that the signal be green, but we make females treated like a red light, and everything pauses. And so the signal be green, but we make females treated like a red light, and everything pauses. I don't really know what that means. Maybe you could shed some light on that, because I don't really know what that means.
Here's what I'm trying to say. You can't control. You can only focus on you. You can only control you. You can't control. So let's just say I meet the person. I'm not saying that the person is feeling you the way you feel her. I'm just saying that when you know who you are and you know what you want, and that person let's use your steak analogy. I like T-bones. You like cubes. Sal's, or was it cube steak? Or we have, okay, so what I'm saying, you to me are the T-bone, when in fact you like cube. But let me just forget the food, right? Because now I'm getting hungry. So let me just say this. Just because you like this person you feel it doesn't always mean, and I've said this to the men and women, you may meet that person that you feel is for you. It's like when people say, God sent you to me. And the person, well, God didn't tell me that because my image of what I want is somebody else. But here's the thing. Listen to me very closely. Anybody who's tuning in. If she is, because I also said dating requires reciprocity. If she's not feeling you, then that's okay. You accept that, because it still takes two. But here's what I do know. She's not the only one who's like that. Then that just may not be her. It just may not be her. So you move on and you meet somebody else. Because again, there are certain fundamental things that you're looking for in a person. We're talking about loyalty. We're talking about character. We're talking about integrity. We're talking about stable, whatever that may be for you. So it doesn't mean that if you meet this person and she's aligned with what you're looking for, and she says no, doesn't mean that that's the end all be all. That doesn't mean like, oh, well, I need to change what I'm looking for. Well, sometimes that does mean that, based on what it is you're looking for initially. But again, all I'm saying is that you have a better choice. Now, we can all sit here and, well, you'll have some men and women make the argument. You know what, Ronnie? I'm going to go out there, and how do I know what, is great for me sexually? So I'm going to go out there and sleep with all of these different women with long hair, women with short hair, women with big breasts, and we're going to go. And once I've slept with all these women, and then I know what I want, then I'll settle in. Okay, you can do that. You can do that if that's what it is. But rarely does that come out to be anything. I'm going to date them all. I'm going to date the tall ones, the short ones, the rich ones, the poor ones. You can do that. All I'm saying is here's the thing. If we're going to use that logic, there will always be another person that has something different than the one you're with. There'll always be something. So when we talk about growth, yes, you know what, Ronnie, I've never dated a woman with big breasts. Maybe that's an experience that I need to. So what are you going to do? Divorce the one with the smaller breasts?
But see,
and date the one, so I mean, we can all use these types of varying degrees of logic to justify why we're not going to settle down at 20 or 30.
But you have to go through that to know that, though. You have
do
to
you?
go through those experiences to know that.
Do you?
Because you do.
Okay.
That's why we have so many divorces, and that's why we have so many people that like when I tell you that it's not that black and white, it's not that black and white. And I wish that it was, but it's not. I wish that it was. Because when you think about what you want, like here's the thing. We marry people thinking that this person is what we want. They tell you that you're what they want. Everything. Okay, everything about that lines up. But somewhere in the relationship, one or both people start to doubt, is this really what I want? Did I really marry for the right reasons that is whole with me and where I want in my life? And now you'll get some people that'll get to the point and say, you know what? It is what it is. This is what I chose and I'm good with it. Now you got those people in the world. You do. Those are those people who are just content with where they are and they're okay with it. They have chosen that route in life and that is fine. But then there are those people that want something a little bit different. Whether they think they do or they know they do. That's almost like if you sleeping with somebody for 10 freaking years, and I know people like this, and you never have an orgasm, are you telling me that you're going to continue to be all right with that for the rest of your life?
That's definitely not what I was communicating.
Because you met somebody because that is what you're saying, because ultimately what you don't know, that's what happens in long-term relationships. But you get to a point and you're like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me I've been sitting here all this time and this doesn't happen and it's supposed to? You got people in the world that been with their spouses for years and don't even know when they have an orgasm in bed. So you telling me that 20 years before that person would have known that they would have got like that in their marriage? So what I'm telling you is that person that feels like they're not being noticed or watched or felt or connected with, do they continue for another fucking 20 years because they just trying to say, well, I'm just going to keep going on? Life is not black and white.
I never said life was black and white. What I am saying is that, okay, to your analogy, so then what happens? You find out that you were supposed to have orgasms when you have sex. Okay, so now are you going to because you're married to this person now, are you going to divorce the person and find someone that you can have sex and have orgasms with? Or are you going to work with that person to achieve the goal of orgasm with that particular person?
Somebody want to be told that in a marriage? Are you kidding me? Do you think do you think that people are always in a receiving position to receive something like that in a marriage? Because the first thing that they're going to think of is that you must have been messing around. So how would you know any different?
I simply asked the question.
Do
you want to divorce this person because now you've discovered something new? Or because listen, Yasheka, if you interview and speak to 10 different people, each person will tell you they're unique from the other person. So there will always be something different. So I get the whole thing about growth, and the ideal situation is you grow together. Now, we know the cleanliness of theory is no match for the messiness of reality, and I've been saying this for years, so I know life is not about black and white. There are those gray areas. But see, here is where we come in. We're helping people navigate that time, because there are going to be some discoveries along the way that, for whatever reason, upbringing or the limited experience, that you didn't get to. So what do you do? Because when you're talking about you're in a marriage or a relationship, you're not only talking about you now have to consider the other person. Okay. So again, in a space where now people, and here's the thing, you talk about the dating pool, because one of the reasons that I hear about people have it with the challenge with the dating pool is that that no one's willing to kind of like discuss things or communicate or try to work things out. The first sign of what they feel is some sort of issue, they disappear under the guise of, listen, I'm just protecting my peace. When a simple conversation could have solved that. So it's the great area that I think we need to do the more work in. So I'm not, if in any way I've said that it was black and white, then I apologize for that. But I'm not here trying to imply that life is black and white or marriage or dating is black and white. But I do know.
Here's the point that I'm making, and not to get into the whole marriage there, because I'm not a marriage coach, right? I'm not a marriage coach. So there's that part. But here's the thing, though. So you take those people who have been through all that. I thought it was this. I thought you was that person. I thought this was the case. I thought we was going to go to the moon. I thought we was going to conquer the stars. So you got those people who are back into the dating pool. And so because they have been through experiences where they thought that one thing was something and it turned out to be something else, or they thought a person was somebody else that turned out to be somebody else. Now they're more hesitant. It's almost like walking around in a minefield, trying to figure out which way do I step before I hit an explosion. Because that's what it's like. Because those same people are back. And see, and here's the thing though, it's not, and I can say it's our generation, Generation Xers, a lot of my generation, Generation Xers, but then a lot of your baby boomers, they're more or less just content already, because most of them are in their 60s and 70s. And so a lot of them is just like, hey, I had my fun. We lasted this long. We know it wasn't a fun ride. We're going to just work it out. But then you got your Generation Xers like myself who are still trying to figure this thing out. And then you got your millennials or your Gen Zs that's like, listen, we don't care about none of that. And I've said this before. And so when they look at it from that perspective, they're like, there are so many people, so many Gen Zs who are, by the time they're 30, who are still not married and still don't have kids. Now, are there some? Absolutely, there's some. But when you think about my generation, there was a big part of my generation that by the time they were 30, they had kids and or was married, right? But the Xers are not like that, because they're like, listen, we're going to just go ahead and have our fun. And here's why they say this. Because I literally have, like, I haven't talked to all of them, but I've been trying to understand some things about the Gen Zs. And what they're pretty much saying is, we saw y'all break y'all backs and work hard for a family that only when you get older, the family dissipates. The kids go off, the parents don't have really healthy relationships with the kids. And then not only that, but the parents are either fighting and still together or they're divorced. So the Gen Zs are saying, so if y'all tried to do everything that way and it didn't work out, let us front load everything. You got Gen Zs that got passports. Okay, you got 21-year-olds that got passports. When I was a kid, that was nothing. When I was 19, 20, that wasn't even part of a conversation, let alone me getting a passport. So they're choosing to do things differently because they're like, okay, if the end goal is to be together at the end, then let's go ahead and have all our fun now. But what's happening though to those older Gen Zs is that they're starting to realize that, wait a minute, that didn't work out that way either, because there's a great deal of them that's in their 33s and 35s and 36s that aren't married, that don't have no kids, and now they feel like they're running out of time. So it's like a dang if you do, dang if you don't. And so right now, when people are back in the dating pool with all this hoopla going on, anything next is almost like making sure you don't step on the next landmine. And I'm going to go ahead and take some comments here. Jay said that most people are dating off what they see instead of the brain and integrity or the materialistic aspect a person has to offer, which is exactly right. And then he was talking about it could be less when we're talking about marriages. And he also stated that if his wife didn't have an orgasm, he want to fix it. And what I would have to say to that, being that I've been a wife, is that I would say, yeah, you tell your wife. But I also know, you tell your husband, but I also know that not everybody receives things the same way. Like I would, if it was me, I would say, absolutely, I would tell my husband and talk to him about it if it was me. But what I know to be true is that you got some people that's like that. I've talked to people where they feel like they person only sees them as meat, as somebody to roll around in, and that's it. So they don't even feel seen. So, but if they was to say something different, then it would be a problem in the relationship, right? I hear these things, and then one thing that Rod people said, people tend to have their true self to please their new partner in the short term rather than being who you are up front. That's my experiences. And that has been the experience of many people, unfortunately, because people believe that if they show up as an imposter, that they have a better chance because who they are has not worked so far. But the thing about it is that they keep on doing the same thing and it keep on not working. And I believe that that's a lot of people problems, is that when it comes down to it, they really don't know who they are. And then until you really, really figure out who you are, then how can you figure out what type of mate you want or desire or need? And I say that in my little spiel about who I am, my dating coach business. That is what I tell women. Like, you have to know who you are. You do that through self-discovery. So if you keep showing up as this as with this imposter or the person you want to see. I've known people to go through whole marriages and then find out who their spouse really is. And it's like, you didn't know that. You didn't, like, did you ever put yourself in a position to live with this person for a while, or go on vacation for 2 weeks and see how they are? And like, people can only pretend for so long before their true colors are exposed. So I wonder about things like that. Like, are y'all living in a bubble where, you go somewhere out of town and you only go to dinner, you only, go and dance together, but you're not really, 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 really mixing with other people? Because when you really, really mix with other people and show people interacting with different people of different genders and different races, then you can see who that person really is. And so people need to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because a person can't pretend that long. Eventually, who they really are is going to come out. But go ahead, Ronnie. I know you want to say something.
No, I'm listening to you. And here's the thing. Look, one of the things I hear as well, because I talk to the various generations across the board, male and female, hell, even across the world. And one of the challenges, in my observation, if I did give some synopsis, the younger generation, the challenge that I think they have is that anything, especially if you mention boomers, they got it all jacked up because of divorce rates with this, that, and the other, whatever the case may be. And so I'm one of those boomers that says, look, I've seen both sides. I've seen some horrific marriages and I've seen some great marriages. We've got this narrative where everyone likes to think, Ron, listen, the only reason these people were together all these years is because she put up with the abuse. Now, somehow in their minds is the men were hell and they were oppressive and they whatever the case may be. The mere thought of a man back in them days as being loving, being a father, and the fact that they're here to complain about a man who's around. Again, we're getting so many different messages, and so they want to dismantle any and everything to do with relationship and saying that all of this is wrong. And so what do we have now? We have feminism on full tilt. We have materialism at an all-time high. And I'm saying to myself, see, this is what I'm trying to tell you. The more things change or grow, the more they say the same. The same things that I see happening now when we're talking about dating, I saw in the 80s. If you listen to the music today, and I can give you the artist name or whatever, it was no different there. And it was all about it's all about the bag. It's all about me. It's all about career. And it was all about me. And that plays a huge part. So just at the top of the hour, when you talk about your tagline, Yasheka, when I talk about we talk about self, knowing self. And there's some things in self that we have to understand and we have to grow, because a lot of that growth that happens before it happens within the relationship, and it has to start with you. And one of the things that I find that so many people and why I believe the dating pool is contaminated is because there's a lot of people who are going in there with the wrong intentions. They want to point the fingers at them, and they could be right. There's some people who come in there, but some of those people are the same people who are doing the complaining. So there were some people who are boomers and generations before who did have it right, because dating does take work. Dating does take reciprocity. Relationships takes all of that. There are some fundamental things I don't care will stand the test of time. Infidelity has been around as long as marriage has. They say, or just relationships or dating. It's just the way it is. And we spend so much time today online complaining about those who didn't make it and what didn't happen and the divorce rate when thereof, okay, Ronnie, most of the men are full of nonsense, so it's hard dating. Okay, what's the percentage? 90%. Okay, so you're going to focus on the 90% or you're going to focus on the 10%? Because you're only looking for one. So everyone to talk about most men are this, most men are this, most women are, well, then stop worrying about the most. If whatever it is that you don't have any reference to back it up and saying, then if this is 90% of the dating pool is garbage because of this, then don't focus on that. Like I said, get out of the damn kiddie pool and get into the adult pool. But we're too busy focusing on, again, it's really coming down to mindset. We're too busy focusing on the energy that people have putting into the people that they feel are messed up. They don't want to focus on the good. And I see that over and over and over again. So I get it. There were some bad marriages back in the day.
was that I swear I wish it was that black and white, Ronnie.
I didn't say it was black and white, but listen.
I just almost want to ask, people that watches us, or even us, like, how much are we out here really dating to really know that this is what's going on? Because I'm telling you, I'm in these streets. It's not black and white like that.
How do you get to the point that what were you by saying that it's black and white, Yasheka?
Here's
Where?
the thing, because you say about people needing to be people needing to do this or needing to do that in terms of, what did you say about watching grandma and them? Let me back up, because you said a lot. So let me back up. We're talking about what we saw. That is true. In most families, we saw, and again, I know you and I were raised different. Okay. I was raised straight up in the damn hood. It wasn't no, I'm just somebody that's rich living in the hood. No, I'm talking mom on welfare, daddy a hustler, the whole 9 yards. Okay. So with that being said, I saw a few relationships, whether it was in my family or people that I knew from school or whatever. And a lot of what I seen was not good relationships. Whether people were sticking around because they didn't have nowhere else to go, or it was like, well, we might as well at this point, or I don't care if he hit me on Friday and give me his check, or give me his check on Friday and hit me on Saturday. I seen shit like that my whole life. So when you think about about relationships, that is what people think about. So when you meet people or when you're out here dating, you have these things that's playing in your mind about what you see is healthy or unhealthy. And unfortunately, because so many people have seen the same things, the way that they process it is different, because you might be with one person. For example, me, I married my first husband not knowing that it was not right to fight your spouse. In my mind, that shit was normal to duke it out. That was normal. Listen to me, that was normal. I did not know no difference. So that's what I'm telling you. It's not like, okay, if people do this and do the work. No, we don't know no better sometimes. And unfortunately, it takes us to have marriages that fail. It takes us to have kids out of wedlock. It takes us to doggone end up in the hospital. Like, it's so many things that happen before we get to a point where we're saying, okay, I want better. And unfortunately, not everybody get there. You got your onesies and twosies that get there. It's just like cream rising to the top. Not everybody gets there. So what I'm telling you is that if we start from back there, then we can understand how we all got here. So if we can acknowledge, and this is my thing, and this is how I feel to solve this piece. This is what I think is the one thing. It's about work. Yes, it's about work. It's about doing all that, because I will hope that at this point, most people are doing it. But I say one thing it takes is for everybody to put down their doggone swords and come to the table just vulnerable with one another and understand that it's a growing process for everybody. And that's what nobody wants to do. I don't care where you come from, where I come from, how many mistakes that we've made in the middle. If we feel like we vibing with each other and we can get to the next level and we really do like each other, so what? You might snore when you go to sleep. So what? I might have this issue. But at the end of the day, if we stop doing this right here and put down our swords and stop trying to thump our chest or rag our peckers at one another, it would be so much better. And that's what I see in these dating streets.
Right. And
might drop.
There will be those who will say, Yasheka, you make it sound like it's just black and white. You see what I'm saying? Look, I can't speak for everybody. I'm only speaking of those who are doing the complaining, those who are in these streets who come to me, and those that I sit here and listen to all of these various platforms. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, anyone who's followed me over the years, no, I've always said, I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm not going to say it's hard. I'm going to say it's worth it. In the end, it takes work. And now, again, we get into this black and white thing. Look, Sometimes, Yasheka, it is as simple as ABC. And one of the challenges that we have in dating, and I've spoken of this one, we make it way too damn complicated sometimes. We really do. We really do. So you can say, this is what we need to do. And then I guarantee you, someone who's going to look like, yeah, she can make it look just so easy. I got so much trauma. I got so much going on. You don't understand my background. Ronnie Walker is a product of the hood. I grew up. I had the man slapping on the woman. I had the woman slapping on the man. Listening to all of that, I've seen the domestic abuse on both sides. I've sat on the stoop of young boys waiting for their father who promised to come and show up and never does. And then maybe one day after 2-3 months, he finally shows up. I've seen couples where the husband is drug abuser, alcoholic, and vice versa. But I've also seen loving, healthy relationships. And I refuse to believe that I am a rarity in this space. But regardless of where you've come from, you have to say that if you're looking, because I believe we're all, and along the way, you're right, there are going to be some mistakes made. There are going to be some out of wedlock children. There's going to be picking a man who was very, very good and having his representative cover things of that nature, and long enough to get past jumping the broom, and then the real him or her shows up. I get all of that. But if in that growth and you separated yourselves from those situations, and now you're back in the dating world, this is where the coaching, the therapy, and all of that comes in, because you can't change what happened back then. All you can do is in your life story, take out the pen and edit what you'd like to see happen for you. And for some, it will happen in the 20s. For some, it may happen in the 30s. And for others, it may happen in the 40s. But we have to be honest about what we have done, where we were coming from, and what we're going to do, so that as we navigate the pool of dating, that for some, listen, will always have some form of contamination in it. If you know who you are and you put in the work, you can navigate that pool and you swim in that pool much more effectively. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying it's worth it.
Oh, it's definitely worth it. But that just means that everybody will have to be accountable for themselves, and everybody will have to show up at the same time, ready at the same time. Because see, what makes the pool really muddy is that everybody is not ready at the same time.
Right, I agree.
So, and that's unfortunate. So you got people who are ready that get to a point in their lives and they say, well, what am I doing? Why am I doing all this work if nobody else that's compatible with me is doing the work? Or the ones that are compatible with me, you know, we're not really vibing with one another for whatever reason. So you look at it that way and say, okay, so what is a person to do? So then they start saying, well, okay, let me trim this away. Let me do this. Let me do this. And we start going back at that, or we risk the fact of getting to an age and never experiencing certain things. So it's like a damn if you do, damn if you don't type of deal, because it happens. I'm seeing the people. I know people. I'm looking at the 30-something-year-olds that's starting to freak out, especially the girls. They're starting to freak out because they're like, wait a minute. I'm on the other side of 35. I did everything right. I didn't have any kids out of wedlock. I dated one guy through college. I dated one guy when I got to corporate America. We broke up 3 years ago, but now I'm already in my 30s. You know what I'm saying? So they did what they were supposed to do, and now they're still single. Now they're still without children, but they're starting to run scared. Why? Because they understand that there are less people that they want than opposite. In other words, there's still a smaller pool of men, even there, that wants to be with women, or, you know, that wants to be with women. So I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm not saying they don't exist. It's just that they're different. They're at different places in their lives. You know, some of those women want men that don't have children, whereas one or two of them who may be doing okay in life, maybe he's had a child because somewhere along the way, he made a mistake. So now those girls are going back and saying, well, dang, okay, well, it looked like I might have to bend on that rule, right? And so that becomes an issue. So it's like, this is what I'm hearing. And so unfortunately, like I said, not everybody mature or get to that point at the same time in life. And I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday, and I told them, and I said, in my opinion, I'm about to be 50. So I'm in that age group where I'm going into my 50s. And so I said, I believe, it's just my opinion, that for those of us who are going into our 50s and we still on the other side of 55, on this side of 55, we're not going to get it right as a group until we get on the other side of 55. And the reason why I say that is because there's going to be a lump sum of people who do get it right, and there's going to be a lump sum of people who don't get it right. But unfortunately, it's going to be where by the time we get to the other side, it's going to be only half that goes to that other side, because it's going to be some people over here that just refuse to. And that's just my opinion. And like I said, that's why you have so many people. I don't just talk to people like I'm talking to everybody. I want to talk to everybody. I want to understand everything. And when I see it that way, I'm looking at some of these people. Yeah, you have your onesies and twosies that get married. But for the most part, though, once those 49 and 50-year-olds, that's 49 and 50, a lot of them ain't getting married. They got married either before 49 or 50, or they're getting married after 55, if they've been married before already and have adult children. Now, like I'm saying, there's no statistics on it, but I'm looking at what I see on social media, what I see on the internet, what I hear about from people. But up in that soft group, that's that because they're still like, okay, I'm trying to figure some things out because I messed around in my 20s and 30s and part of my 40s. I don't want to go in my 50s with the same mindset. So they start to make those changes in life, 45, 46, right? Then they get to 50 and they're like, oh shit, okay, all right, it's time for me to get it together. You know what I'm saying? So they like, okay, bam. But all right, I don't really want to be 50 yet, so I'm gonna still hold on to it, my 40s. So they 52, 53, and then all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, I don't want to die alone. Let me settle down. And so once they get to the other side of 55, that's when they really become intentional about dating as a collective. And that's just my opinion.
Right. Well, what I'm noticing a lot more of, Yasheka, are women who are admitting that they had the chance to be where they want to be now, and they still thought they had time on their side.
Yeah,
and this also fuels this conversation of dying alone. And I've spoken of that. I did a whole live on Facebook about that. Is that you have a section of women now. We can all debate as to what percentage of women are like that, who still and part.
A higher percentage of women, because it's more higher percentage of women that's out in the world. Because a lot in our generation, they didn't make it, or they're somewhere else. So of course the women are going to be higher. But as a woman who only date men, I have dated a lot of men, or talked to a lot of men that talk about how they could have been where they wanted to be before, and for whatever reason it didn't happen, and so now they're regretting it.
Right. But there's studies about that. Men, and we've been talking about that with men for years. What hasn't been done. And here's something, and I need Black women to really, really listen to me. And maybe it wasn't your journey, or you could care less, or whatever. If there's one thing we do know, is that men have been studied up ways, down ways, sideways, every which way but loose. Even Black men. And a lot of the conversation is driven, that when we're talking about dating and relationships, is because one genre is Black women have not really been talked about or studied the way in which Black men have. And so when we have these conversations,
White men been studied the way Black men have?
No, you haven't.
Okay.
When we talk about the dating, wait, let me finish. Let me finish.
Have any other nationality and gender been studied the way Black men have?
Has been studied by Black men? White men.
Huh?
White men.
Okay, white men. Okay, so Black and white men. So who else been studied like that?
Let me finish my
No,
point.
who else been? I'm just asking. Who else been studying? Like, in other words, my point is I'm trying to make is that
What is your point you're trying to make?
women aren't supposed to be studied like men. We're not men. So why is it that men are saying y'all didn't study black women? Like why? What difference does it make? Study
Because when we're having conversations about why,
us.
if you let me finish, you'll get the answer. When you have a statistic that's showing 1 in 4 black women are getting married, that means for every one that is getting married, 3 aren't. And the question is why? Now, everyone has their theories. And based on the generation, some of it may hold true, some of it may not. What I'm saying is simply this, and then he made me a little thought, is that, look, when we're talking about something as simple, well, not even as simple, when we talk about this whole dying alone situation, and that I'm saying, ladies, oh, I know what the point I was trying to make. I'm hearing an increasing number of women, and maybe this is just because social media has made it so, where there are those women who admit, because I've heard this from men all the time. If you talk to enough men, they'll tell you, those men who will tell you that there was that one woman or 2 women that they should have settled down with, but they were still playing the field. But to hear women tell you that if they're not married by a certain age and never been married, is because there were no available men. And for a good percentage of them, again, we can debate what percentage of them had someone. They were getting proposals, but they still felt now part of them will tell you he wasn't the one. The others will tell you, yeah, but I still thought that maybe I still had time on my side, or I can kind of put him on ice until, and this is this whole conversation when men talk about friend zones, I can hold him on ice and think that he'll be there 5-10 years later, because again, he was too nice. He was this. And so we can look, just like certain men, there are women who still played the field a little too long. And now they blink and they realize, like, damn, okay, I need to now be serious about what I want to do. And this is what I'm hearing. I hear it over and over and over about, and they will tell you these men were good providers, good job, good looking or whatever. But for whatever reason, they will then admit, you know what? I should have. And I knew it, but maybe I was listening to my girls. I still think I had time on my side. Ronnie, I was still a little too cute. I didn't want to sell. And that happens to women do that just like men will do that.
Right. I was about to say, didn't you say what men did that too, where they
Right.
let that
right.
Way
but what I'm saying,
then if everybody do it, then what's the problem? Like how
the problem is, here's the reason.
People don't know what they don't know. Like if men and women do it, it's not gender specific.
But here's why it's important, Yasheka. If you're talking about a space, first of all, women are not asking men to marry. Women are not getting on one knee. Men are. Men are still. So whether they're doing it in their 20s or whether they're doing it in their 50s, they can still do it. And then men, usually men, and again, some do, some don't. But you look at one of the biggest complaints about women in their 40s and 50s is that men in their 40s and 50s are going younger. That's nothing new. So when is, why are we talking about this? This is something men have always been doing. And so now you have these women in their late 40s and 50s having to compete against the 20 and 30-year-olds. They're getting on the knees for them for whatever the reason, and that's a whole nother conversation. Now they're having to compete, whereas at one point they were in their 20s and 30s. Now it's different for a man if you're going out there to seek a woman. And then you have the numbers on your side, regardless of how many women are bi or straight or whatever, gay, whatever the case may be, the numbers are still on your side. Women have a smaller population to Bigfoot. And then again, they have, listen, and they look great, but then they're still wandering out. You look at how many celebrities in their 40s and 50s are still single.
But how many men, but here's the thing though. Are we talking about black women or white women or mixed? Because here's my thing. There are a lot of Hollywood women that are single.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm talking about Hollywood. I'm not talking about rappers. I'm talking about straight Hollywood. But when you think about it, though, when they were coming through the ranks, we only had a few male actors. So it was never an even dating pool. You had Denzel. That's all you had. And you had Angela Bassett. I'm talking about in our 80s and early 90s. We had Denzel, Angela Bassett. We had Billy D. Williams. We had doggone whoever else within that time, within that frame. And then all of a sudden, we start having a little bit more people, right? Then you start having your Vivicas and your Lisa Rays and whoever, right? Then you start having a few men, not a lot, because Denzel was still the hottest thing in Hollywood until Will Smith came along, and then when the Black Panther guy came along, and then a few others. So what I'm telling you is, when you think about statistically, same thing with popular women who are famous and like okay, point and taken. Think about, let's take MJB for example. MJB, on her scale, I'm not talking about no rapper. I'm not talking about a rapper I'm talking about she's an R&B artist. Tell me a male R&B artist that's comparable to Mary J. Blige that would be somebody that she could rock with. Now, I'm not saying now this is my thing. Maybe she didn't want nobody that was an actor. Just like people don't like soldiers. People don't like messing around with soldiers for whatever reason. Maybe she didn't want a rapper. Maybe she wanted an R&B singer like herself. So maybe they could do some collaborations. Maybe they could help each other, whatever. But when you think about it, who is her equivalent in Hollywood in terms of R&B that had a career that spans over 20-something years like hers and been successful in R&B? I'll wait because I can't think of any.
Are we talking about quality or the fame? Or
No,
are we talking about a quality man? See, look,
I'm talking about her equivalent.
Listen to me, Yasheka, listen. You cannot convince me. No one can convince me. Because when we talk about rappers, because you talk about growth of things of this nature. So if you're talking about
wanted to date rappers back in the day because all they talked about was bad things, and so you knew they was living.
But listen, okay. Well, listen. Well, look how many women. See, but here's the thing. Look how many women. And I have to see one more post about how fine Method Man is. And see, here's the thing. And then now he's fine because he ain't talking about the stuff that he was talking about in his whatever. Here's my point. His when you talk about MJB, you cannot convince me if you took at every single rapper out of there. You cannot tell me that in her journey, in the space that she was in, because remember, in her, she was just as hood as the rappers that she was hanging around. You remember Mary earlier? I mean, hell,
but she believed what another man said, who later turned out to be toxic himself.
You're talking years later.
I'm talking about when she was with doggone the guy from doggone Jodeci. She was with him for many years, and then it took her many years.
You're saying that Mary J was everything a woman needed to be at that time, or there was at some point? Is that what you're saying?
Was where neither one of them was where they needed to be, but they both had to go.
There we go.
But here's the thing, though: when she continued to elevate, he didn't.
Again,
so I ask you the question: who is at her equivalent?
Listen to me. All I'm saying is this, and this goes to my big greater point. You cannot convince me that she did not meet someone along that way. I would argue that what she was looking for was not good for her in the first. And this is how she picked. She picked wrong people. But to say, and you know who also told you that was what's her name from the rap group Salt and Pepper, when Will Smith. And what was her thing that she said? Oh, he was too nice. So what did that translate into men speak? He was a nice guy, willing to treat. He was a gentleman. He was willing to take her, but she wanted hood dudes. And who did she get with? My man from Naughty by Nature, which is pretty much the equivalent of the guy from the singing group that you say that Mary J got with. So again, this is what it is. Women, there are some women and ladies, you got to listen. Y'all have to admit that sometimes you got to own that you picked the wrong man.
Oh, no
You
doubt.
picked the wrong, okay, well, or then you picked the wrong man, or you ignored the guy. And this is where, again, this is part of the problem. Now, years later, kids later, again, we can debate on what percentage of women there are. Now you're looking for the man you had a chance to get with in your 20s, but you chose not to.
But
And if you talk to enough men, they will all tell you the woman that passed them up that now they wish they would have got with.
And men are not being honest about. Y'all keep talking about what the ladies need. Trust me, I go to the bars, I hang out in the doggone groups, I do whatever. Men are out here suffering just like we are, and that's
but again,
nobody's fault. If everybody just put down their swords, then this will be the dating pool. We can drain the water out and let some fresh water in. And so as we wrap up this thing, right? I did like this has been a loving conversation. I love it.
Of course it is.
Because listen, at the end of the day, everything that comes out of my mouth, I'm passionate about. So especially in terms of relationships and dating and things like that, right? If it's something dealing with that, I'm going to be passionate about it. So, somebody told me in the comments, but to this day, I still deny them. That's not true. I just want to know that's not true. That's not true. But anyway, with that being said, Ronnie, as always, listen, I hope that anybody that comes in and watch this, and again, I had internet problems, and it looks like I have to call my people again. Because I'm looking at my big screen, but then I'm looking at my phone, so I'm going cross at it, looking at this little bitty hole right here. But then I got my big screen behind me, so it's a whole mess over here. But anyway, if you guys are catching us in the replay, be sure to hashtag replay. Let us know for those who participated today or came in and gave us some insights and chimed in and talked to us. We really appreciate all of y'all. We're going to go to in a minute. Let us know if y'all want us to get y'all some back from the store, because we can afford the people that's commenting. We can still afford so if you want me to get back a Starbucks, let me know. I appreciate y'all, right? So Ronnie, is there anything that you want to say before we close?
I just want to say thank you to Jay and all those who commented. We appreciate you and for sharing. This is what it's about. So listen real quickly. Go to datingdiscussions.com. Also, you can go to Dating Discussions Live, where you will see it on YouTube. And also now we have a new platform, Dating Discussions Podcast, which for those of you who are not in a position to see it visually, but if you're driving in your car, listening on your phone while you're riding or whatever, you have the audio. And now we're being heard in Belgium and Italy. And so we're really happy for the expansion that it is. And trust me when I tell you, Yasheka and I have a lot of great things coming forward to you. And don't think that because this is probably one of the most intense shows that we had. Just know that we both come from a place of love. And we both I speak for her as well, I'm sure she'll allow me to, that what we come from and our different points of view and certain stuff is just so that you can go get what you need to go. And as Yasheka like to say, get to love so you can get to the love making. Absolutely. That's what it's about. And that's all I got to say, Yasheka.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And we will catch you guys in the next live. And if you're catching us on YouTube, again, let us know you're here. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Yes. Mm-hmm. So thank you guys, and talk to you guys on the next live.
All right. Bye. Good night, everybody.
Good night.